What's up, guys? Happy Friday. Welcome back to another episode of AKP Sports Talk. That's Ari. I'm Korea. Obviously, we're getting really excited to get closer and closer to the beginning of college football season right around the corner alongside the NFL season. Alongside, obviously, one of the most biggest, or obviously the biggest global competition, the Olympics, kick off tonight. Obviously, we may have some future plays for the Olympics, especially Olympic basketball, maybe Olympic soccer as well for me, potentially in the future. So peep out for that, obviously, starting tonight. But obviously, just doing a quick recap of how we did yesterday. First, starting with me, my one and only play, unfortunately, just did not look good. I mean, I was more hoping that the Giants offense would, do a little more, and they put up a couple runs, but they were down 3-2, and as soon as I saw, I think Hayward, I think he had that a single, or he drove in a run. I knew it was pretty much over in the bottom of the fifth there. It already was over, but it was just the Giants. Their bats didn't really wake up. I was kind of hoping they did wake up for a little bit. Obviously, they were up 2-1, and then the immediate response from the Dodgers kind of ruined it for me. Obviously, Dodgers got out to a 1-0 lead, and then I forgot how Giants scored, but they scored two, I think, at the top of the second or third to make it a 2-1 ball game. And then literally just right in the bottom half of that inning, the Dodgers offense, there they are once again, becoming menaces. And obviously, getting a couple runs, and obviously, scoring one more, I think, in the bottom of this. So obviously Giants first half plus half a run didn't cash there. I was just more kind of banking on the fact that, I was hoping that, Clayton Kershaw, I mean, obviously, looked like he was, in decent form, obviously only giving up a couple runs, but in his first start in a very long time. But, I was just more hoping that the Giants offense, would probably, keep this a little more competitive. I was also more backing Logan Webb, and, obviously he let up his runs on his end. So, that was just a tough read for me. So 0-1 day for me on my one and only play. Ari, I know it was pretty legacy, but how'd the Mets do yesterday?
Yeah, it's one of the crazier wins, at least as of late. Like I was kind of both, fading Chris Sale and the Braves lineup, so I only needed, one of the two to go my way to have a chance. And obviously, Sale, dominated, pitching 2 days off schedule was no problem clearly for him. I think he went 7 innings. I think he gave up the one. It was the one 2-run home run by Lindor. That was the one knock on his start. But the Braves lineup again, they had, I think, 4 more hits, but they just couldn't come through with runners on base. And then it went to extra innings 2-2. And they had I don't know if this was a call or there's miscommunication or whatever, but I think it was Alvarez on third base thought it was a suicide squeeze where he's running on the play, and Kelenic was supposed to bunt. The pitch is high. So Kelenic puts his bat back, but if it's a two-side squeeze, you're supposed to, even just fouling it off, helps obviously. So, whoever was wrong or right there, it helped the Mets obviously, because Alvarez got caught in a pickle and got tagged out at third, between third base and home plate. And then it went to the bottom half of the inning, still tied. I think it was first and second. I think it was 1 out at first, and it was 2 outs. Looks like a normal fly ball to, I think it was Laureano. And somehow, some way, he overruns it, and it drops right behind them. And the Mets walk it off, and now they're only a half game behind the Braves for second place in the NL East. So they're well in the division wild card race as well. So, and funny enough, I think the Braves were also 10 games up in the Mets in that, and so they're not the only team to blow a 10-game lead, not for the division, but just like in general, obviously. But yeah, so yeah, overall legacy Mets win. Braves continue, the bats continue to just not show up as of late, and the Mets are just finding different ways to win. I think they have the best record in MLB over the past like 3 or 4 weeks, or top 2 or 3 records. So they're one of the hotter teams in the league, and sometimes when things are going your way, they just keep going your way. Also that's how the Mets won yesterday.
Yeah, obviously, you could have said any way to describe it. What could have gone wrong went wrong for the Braves. Mets find another way to win a game. Maybe it's the spirit of grimace or whatever you want to call it. But the Mets, obviously, you mentioned, just keep finding ways to win games. Obviously, the Braves, anything that is going wrong, obviously, will go wrong for them right now. Obviously, just their bats aren't alive, even with great performance from Chris Sale. Just not really any offensive production, obviously. And then obviously you mentioned the whole suicide squeeze bunt situation. Obviously as a batter, you got to at least take even if it's like something way out of the zone. Obviously, you're taught to just even take a hack at it or whatever. Just to obviously get that runner back to third, so you don't have to deal with that suicide situation where they're caught in the middle of a pick'em. So there's that, and then obviously Laureano obviously not reading that fly ball right. So, just what can go
I
wrong
think
will
I
go
think
wrong,
it
obviously.
I think it was Laureano. I think who was on third base on the suicide squeeze. So he got caught whatever in the pickle there, and then so that was a nightmare inning for him.
Yeah, just absolute nightmare inning for Laureano. You mentioned, the Mets kind of crawling back here. A month ago, this team was talking about trading, some of their key guys like Alonso and just getting ready for next year. And now here they are, only a half game behind the Braves. Obviously, really tighten that NL wild card race. Obviously now we're getting closer and closer to the trade deadline. So obviously the Mets, I think they are obviously presumed to be buyers now, with a couple of trades, obviously including a big one last night, obviously with the Mariners trading for Randy Arozarena. But now obviously shifts a bunch of these looks and how the games look now. Obviously with the Tampa Bay Rays, losing a key part of their offense and whatnot. We'll see what the Mets do, obviously, now in this division. But obviously, 1-1 day, we will gladly take that. Obviously, we'll try to wrap up this week with a positive note, obviously, on this Friday. I got 2 picks for you. First, we're going to go back home to Baltimore, and we're going to take the Orioles team total over 4.5 today, -135 on DraftKings right now. I'm mostly just targeting the team total. I do like the Orioles, maybe -1.5 sprinkle or maybe a money line parlay piece, but I don't really want to have to depend on them to win. I just like the fact that they're going to score runs today because they're facing Adam Mazer. And if you remember that guy loves to walk people. And the Orioles, as soon as you get people on, they love to score. So that's pretty much what hand in hand there. I think with Adam Mazer, not a really consistent pitcher. If he's not finding the strike zone, he's walking guys, and he doesn't have a good K rate, and that's where the Orioles live to thrive. They don't strike out that much, and once they make contact, it's going to be a long day. So I'm just backing the Orioles at home here. Obviously, you can maybe call it a letdown spot for the Padres, obviously, after Dylan Cease threw that no hitter yesterday. Maybe celebrated a little too hard last night, and maybe they come in. Adam Mazer and the pitching crew maybe come in a little lackadaisical per se. But I'm more just backing the Orioles at home. The team total over 4.5. I think the Orioles can get 5 runs today. Even with the bullpen. But I think mostly against Adam Mazer today. I think they dial him up for a rough day today. So I'm mostly just taking the Orioles team total over 4.5 runs -135. Just backing an offensive team at home. Obviously the Orioles, they play better at home. Their offense plays better at home. They're one of the best hitting teams. Obviously they're obviously a team that obviously, in talking about the trade market, they just traded away Austin Hayes. So, even though they're losing, one piece of their bat, obviously the Orioles, they have so many guys waiting in AAA and AA or whatever, to be called up alongside their already stacked core with Henderson and Cowser and Rutschman and Santander and whatnot. So I do like the Orioles just to score 5 runs today, -135. I think they get a lot of runs scored across the board against the Padres and Adam Mazer. So that's my first play today. And then we're going to go to the rematch of 2017 between the Dodgers and Astros, and we're going to take that over 8.5 -105 here. Obviously, this is not that 2017 team, 2 different teams here. For the Dodgers here, we're just mostly for this game, I looked into this game and I wanted to do something all weekend with this series, and I said I'm just going to blindly bet the over because I know that these 2 teams can score. You look at the Dodgers, obviously, in this matchup they are facing Framber Valdez, and Framber Valdez, you can say what he is, whether he's good or not. He's had his ups, and when he's dialed, he's dialed. Obviously, last year or the past 2 years, he's been a Cy Young candidate. One Cy Young, one of the best pitchers in baseball, but when he gets rocked, he gets rocked. And I think today he might be in due for some regression against a Dodgers lineup that knows how to hit him very well. Obviously, with Shohei Ohtani, obviously facing him many times from the Houston as a member of the Angels in that former division. Teoscar Hernandez as a member of the Angels, member of the Mariners. Before he left for the Dodgers. I'm just more backing runs in this series. Obviously, you look at these two teams, and obviously you look at the lineups more than the pitching staff, even though both pitching staffs are very respectable. But this particular matchup, Gavin Stone on the other side, for the Dodgers, Astros love to hit right-handed pitching, especially at home. I feel like that's a great. I don't know how Gavin Stone does on this road spot. It's a great letdown spot for him. I think the Astros, obviously, we talk about teams that have been heating up, in terms of how their offense are, and obviously, even though they had a weird series in Oakland, where they lost the first two games, but obviously the last game their offense showed out and they put up 8 or 9 runs, I believe. So obviously just more kind of backing that, their offense is starting to find its form. Obviously they've been waiting for this series, a big series to get for them to, for hopefully not for us, not for us Mariner fans, but for the Astros, obviously for them to kind of, get back into this, AL West race here. Just try to, hopefully get a win there. But I'm just more taking the runs here. I think there's going to be a lot of runs scored between these two teams pretty much all weekend. But tonight, when this first matchup between Gavin Stone and Framber Valdez, I do like that I do like that total over at 8.5. And obviously, we look at the bullpens. Obviously, the Dodgers and Astros bullpens. Obviously, you look at the names, but some of the names have had some tough seasons. Obviously, especially on the Astros side, Josh Hader has not had a consistent year. You look at Presley, even though Josh Hader has looked a lot more impressive, as of recent start, obviously, you look at the Dodgers lineup and they have so many guys, who have faced not only Josh Hader before, but, have good experience against him. So, if it gets to that bullpen time, I do like the hitter splits just because there are so many veterans who do know, how to wait and, how to, find the right pitch for them. So I'm just backing the runs here, obviously on a Friday night here. I do like this total over 8.5, getting at -105 on DraftKings. I just think there's going to be a lot of runs scored today between the Dodgers and Astros. Those are my two plays today. Orioles team total over 4.5, -135, and then the Dodgers and Astros over 8.5, -105. Ari, what have you cooked up to end the week on this Friday?
Yeah, 2 plays for me as well. Going for my third straight, first 3 under after a tough start of me betting them. Reds Rays Lodolo against Baz. Or Boz. I think this is his 4th start, and they're kind of easing him back, but obviously, I don't need him to pitch deep or anything for first the replay, obviously, and then Lodolo, who most starters are a lot better at home than on the road, but for Lodolo, it's been the complete opposite, and makes sense that the Reds have are in one of the more hitter friendly ballparks in the league, but his ERA this year is like well over 4 on at home. And then it's like in the mid-2s, I think it was, like on the road. So he's been way better, on the road. Obviously the Rays just lost to Rosarena. Even with them, the lineup wasn't that great. And then the Reds away from Cincinnati, have had their ups and downs as well. So I think this game could easily soar under like full game, like a 7.5 total full game. I think this could be like a 3-1 type of game, but for the purpose of my play, I'm just taking obviously it's a bit of a chance because all it takes is a bloop and a blast, to for this not to hit, obviously. But the last one I played was, I think, it's the Tigers Blue Jays. That was 0-0-3. So obviously hoping that this is similar of not many base runners and just both pitchers a deal first time through the lineup. So Reds Rays first turn, 1.5, and then going to the rivalry, Boston Yankees. I'm going with Boston, really just fading Nestor Cortez away from New York, where he's typically, not as good, not as consistent. He's also been hit hard. His last 2 starts, which both came actually against the Rays. His last 2 starts, and then it's Bayo for the Red Sox. Another kind of play where it's like, I'm not super confident backing Bayo, but it's more of a fade, of Cortez and his backing Bayo with this type of play. Red Sox are right in that. Really the division right now. I think they're like 4 or 5 back of the division, so they're right. They're well in the wild card, obviously, and then also the division. So they're playing well. They're at home. Cortez away from New York again has not been, what he is usually in New York. So yeah, those are my 2 plays. Reds race first under 1.5, and then the Red Sox short underdog at home, backing them at home against the Yankees.
You mentioned with the Reds, obviously, Nick Lodolo, a big example of, he pitches away from better from his home park. Obviously, a lot of Rockies pitchers, kind of like that as well. Obviously, just because of the nature of their home ballpark, obviously very hitter friendly. Obviously, Tropicana, one of the more pitcher friendly ballparks, just because of the interesting dimensions of whatever you want to call it. I do like this first 3 under 1.5. You mentioned the Reds offense a little bit shaky away from home as well. And then obviously the Rays, obviously we mentioned they just lost to Rosarena via the trade with Seattle. So, that's a big part of their lineup. Even though he wasn't hitting as well, that's still a big, thump in their lineup gone. So I do like this first 3 under 1.5 play for you. You mentioned the last time you took it was back I think about a week ago with the Tigers and Blue Jays or whatnot, how many days ago. And that obviously was a 0-0 game for you. So just continuing that trend. I like Nick Lodolo, obviously, in the spot. You mentioned his ERA on the road in the twos, obviously very, very well considered. He pitches almost near a 4 ERA at home. And obviously backing Shane Baz, obviously he's he's a little bit he's more of the concern, obviously, just because obviously I think he's allowed a 300 batting average to his I think opponents in his last few starts, but just got more fading the Reds offense away from Great American Ballpark. So I do love that first 3 under 1.5 play for you, and then obviously the Red Sox. I do love them at even money here tonight at plus 100 against their division rival in New York. Obviously, you mentioned for the Red Sox, they're starting by Brian Bayo, and you're not really backing him. I do like that. Nestor Cortez, he has struggled. The Red Sox do hit better against lefties. We saw it in that second game in Colorado where the Red Sox obviously just absolutely torched Ty Block. Obviously, the lefty like to stack against lefties, and I think in that lefty-lefty matchup, obviously, I think they show out tonight. Obviously, you have hot guys like Rafael Devers, Tyrone Neal, hot hitters like that, against Nestor Cortez. Obviously, we know how big this rivalry is between Boston and New York. So, and then I just like backing this home team. Obviously, in this kind of rivalry series, I love backing the home team more. I don't really back the home team, but with Boston, New York, you really do, because the rivalry, that's one of those series where the rivalry kind of matters, because those crowds are electric every time those two teams play in whatever venue it is. So I like the Red Sox just to get the job done against their division rivals down in New York today. So I do love those 2 plays for you, those plus money plays with the Reds and Rays, first 3 under 1.5, the Red Sox on the money line. And then going back to my 2 plays with the Orioles team total over 4.5, along with the Dodgers and Astros over 8.5. Full game total. You can find both of mine and Ari's plays on our Twitter below, AKP Sports Talk. We'll have our full video post momentarily. But that's going to do it for this episode and this week of AKP Sports Talk. We thank you guys so much for tuning in. That's Ari. I'm Korea. Obviously, we wish you guys a great weekend. We will be back on Monday for some best bets. Obviously, by that time, the Olympics will have officially started. So who knows? We may sprinkle some USA minus 41.5 against South Sudan again. Who knows? Who knows? well, or maybe not. We'll see. But obviously, that's going to do it for this episode. We thank you guys so much for tuning in. That's Ari. I'm Korea. Win some money, guys, and we will see you on Monday.